everybody. Welcome back, all my listeners and my viewers to B3u. And today we have the opportunity to interview with my brother, my baby brother, Lance Williams. Everybody, welcome him to the show. So, Lance, let's get right into it. What are you doing right now today? What are you up to in these days?
Right now, I would say that I'm in transition from, let's just say for the past, you know, let's just go over the past 10 years. So like for 7 years, had my own trucking company. I was driving, but then I started a family, had my first kid, and I didn't want to be away. So that I tried to, I'll answer these in later things, but I just didn't want to be away from the family. And so I transitioned to see what I can do locally outside of trucking that would be able to, support my family and give me that the work-life balance that I was looking for. And my family wanted it as well. But I did a couple of things. We'll get into that later probably, but I did a couple of things as far as like different industries and stuff like that. But ultimately, I landed right back into a local trucking job, just as an employee this time, which gives me excellent work-life balance. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Always doing great things. Just awesome, of course, because he's my brother. Y'all know I'm going to say that he's awesome, right? But he really is. So B3u, as we all know, we come and we share what uh, trauma or what trial or tribulation we have experienced. So, Lance, I'm going to start asking you, what is a story that you would love to share in order that somebody can relate to and possibly help them out?
Absolutely. So back in around maybe about 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, I got in trouble for selling with uncontrolled substance or a controlled substance, whatever they want to name it as. And that's the first time that I've ever gotten in trouble with anything. Like if anybody know me, I would probably be the last person they would think would do something like that. But in my mind, while I was doing that, it's not what you see on TV or anything like that. It's just like I didn't even think, people standing on the corners with guns and all this other stuff. No, I'm in my house watching Home Alone 2 or just watching TV or playing video games, just playing with my friends. And if someone called me, I'd go out there, make the sale, whatever like that. And then I just, back to my regular life. I was just thinking of, you know, just the money aspect of it is like, everybody wants to make money. I don't think
Yeah.
that's not the right way to do it because there's other ways you can do it. It's slower, but it's more rewarding and it's less trouble that way. But I was just thinking about, okay, I'm gonna just make this is how I'm just gonna make a little bit of extra money because I've seen people I've known making money, living a certain lifestyle and things like that. I didn't necessarily want to take it to that extreme, but I just wanted to have a little bit of money in my pocket. That's all.
Your
But
money in your pocket. I
yeah,
understand.
yeah, I'm
And
not thinking about how what.
how old were you at this time?
That was about almost 20 years ago. So I was probably like the early 20s, like 21.
21. So
Yeah.
that's a relatable thing because most of our young people out here, what's the first thing they want to do, right? They want to make the quick money,
Yeah, yeah.
quick money. So that's what it was for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, so that happened. Like I said, I've never been in trouble before. And you ever seen one of the movies where like when I got processed, I've got taken to the local county, and that whole time, I kind of it was kind of like a surreal experience in the sense that you ever see one of the movies where the person is just like they're like frozen or in a trance and everything is moving around them. I was kind of like in that day, just thinking about life in general, like my not my life flashing before my eyes, like I'm about to die, but just what did I get myself into? What does this mean? Like, I didn't know the severity of, what just happened. Like, people can take away your life for 5 or 10 years or whatever the case may be, whatever the sentence is. But luckily, I was my first time ever doing anything, and then they just got, probation, community service, things like that. But like I said, it took a huge mental toll on me as a person and just like my confidence level. And, when you get records and things like that, you start reading up on stuff and you can't get a job, you can't get an apartment, you can't do
Yeah.
anything. So it's like like, is my life over? So that just started me making different certain decisions in my life, or just holding back my full potential as a person, because I think like, I'm going to try this, I'm gonna put all this effort and work into it, and in the end, I'm just going to get rejected anyway. So it's like it kind of stopped me from reaching my full potential at that point.
Yeah, were you in like a certain like a depression phase, going through everything?
Uh, I wouldn't say depression like that. I would just say, like, I had my moments where I just felt like, what am I going to become, and things like that. Like, as far as like, you do feel down, so you feel like a depression state. But I wasn't in like a deep, like, I didn't feel like I couldn't do anything. I just felt like the person who I wanted to become, I felt like I couldn't become that
That person
because of
any-
my record. So
And what was the how long um were you incarcerated for it, or you just got
no,
charged?
no. So that day they processed me. They took me to the county. Um, Probably arrived there at 3 or 4 p.m. and I was out the next morning. And then I just had to show up to court, and they probation, community service, and things like that. So I want to say I spent like maybe 12 hours in the county, but that was about it.
Okay. But it just was a like an eye opener, a life changer.
Yeah, because one minute you're able to drive and do whatever you want, go where you want, and then the other minute you're just in a place with people that is nothing like you. Not to say I think I'm better than anybody, but like, just the how I grew up, where I grew up, the person I am, even at that time, even doing that stuff. Like I said, it's not. I feel like I was just a regular person just trying to make money. I wasn't thinking about what
The
those substances could
consequences,
do
yeah.
to the people who are taking them or their families or anything like that. I'm just thinking it's just a paycheck for me at the day. But it's just like, okay, now in the county, people are coming in all drugged out and overdose, and with wild, crazy stuff. And I'm like, wow, where
Like
am I right now?
what exactly? Like
Yeah,
looking around, that's kind of like I can relate to that because the military experience. I just wanted to get away. I wanted to do better for myself. I just wanted to make some good money, and I was like, I'm going to the army.
yeah,
And I was gone in 2 weeks. They told me, hey, you could retake the test and you could try to do better. And I was like, nah, I'm trying to get out of Philly.
yeah, right.
I'm ready to go. And I hit. I ain't never been out of the city of Philadelphia, and I get to Fort Jackson, Relaxing Jackson, we call it, and I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into? Like these
Right.
people are yelling at me, like, why are you yelling at me? You could just tell me to run up the hill. I'll run up the hill. You ain't gotta spit in
Yeah,
my face and yell at me and make me do it. So I understand totally what you're saying. It was just a moment for you. What I'm hearing you say was like, what the hell is going on? Because this is not me. Hey, I'm just trying to make a little extra cash. So
yeah,
I get that. I get that totally. I get
yeah,
that.
yeah. And it was like, at that point, that point was a pivotal. I think, like I said, I was about 22, 23, something like that. But um, that was a pivotal point for me, in the sense that after that, I was like, wow, life is serious. You kind of take life for granted. You can do this and that, but when something happens like that, it's like, wow, your life can be taken from you. Not in the sense of death, but like, you can be imprisoned, and you know, just being there, and everybody has control over what you do, where you go, and X, Y, and Z. But at that moment, I was like, I have to do something that could possibly override the sentence, or the felony charge that I got. And so at that point, like, I started reading a lot. Like, before that time, I graduated obviously when I high school 18 up until 23. Like, I've never opened up a book or anything like that on my own and tried to read it or anything like that. But at that point, like, I just started reading a lot, self-development, and then I rolled back in college, and I was like, I got to get straight A's. So, once I graduate, my resume and my grades have to be 10 times better than the next candidate for even to be overlooked. So I won't be overlooked just because of this. I have to be 10 times better. So that kind of started me on like a crazy self-development type of journey, kind of which I'm still on today. Like I just never stopped improving. Even though my record is expunged now and it publicly is supposed to never be seen by anything, you still have them thoughts in your mind that, what if they do see it? What if they still can see it or something like that? So sometimes that, I have those thoughts when I'm applying for something. And, I think anybody listening to this should be, you know, try to understand that, don't limit yourself from, trying to go to the next level just because you may think that, whoever is looking at you as far as a candidate or anything like that, don't make the decision for them. Like just go through the process and just see what happens. That's all I have
Right.
to say about that. Yeah.
Right. And that's pretty cool because this aligns with um, my topic and kind of what I'm talking about now is how we shrink ourselves. We
Yes.
shrink ourselves to, for whatever reason, to look good to the next person, or we shrink ourselves before we even give ourselves a chance, you know, to say that, this is possible. I do know someone who uh, has a charge and real minor charges, really, really minor,
Yeah.
and I was talking to the young lady and I said, hey, she was like, oh, this is going to, it was over, really, it was like a racist type thing. And because she was protecting herself, the person went and pressed charges. And so
Okay.
now it's like, oh, I'm never going to be able to get a job, work from home. And I said,
Yeah.
what, why not? These charges are they're just charges. They're very minute. Like, don't give up on yourself. And now don't shrink yourself to say, because of what someone else did or what I wasn't thinking, we can always bounce back. We,
Absolutely.
we can always bounce back. God gives us many, 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 he forgives us, right?
Hmm.
So if God can forgive us, why are we so hard on ourselves? Why do we shrink ourselves to try to match up instead? And that's a good point that you said. But somebody who went through something or is going through something, don't give up on yourself and don't shrink yourself
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
match society.
Yeah, absolutely. And then yeah, at that point, remember I said I went on like that personal development journey. I went back to college and everything like that. Um, So traditionally, traditionally, someone would graduate college, university, with a bachelor's degree, and then they would do internships, and then they would just try to go work for a corporation or something like that. But I didn't do that stuff because I didn't do that because okay, I don't want to get rejected. Nobody likes getting rejected, so I didn't even want to
Exactly.
apply.
Mhm.
Just I applied to 10 places, nobody's called me back. Like I just graduated for nothing and everything like that. So I didn't want to, I limited my mindset. So I didn't do that. So what I did was I just started a cleaning business because, if you own something, they're not going to fire you. You can't fire yourself.
Right.
So, so I started a cleaning business. I did that for a couple of years. I was still staying at my parents' house, but that's not really what I wanted to do. It's just something that I felt like it was low cost of entry. You just buy a couple of cleaning supplies, you have transportation, and you kind of put yourself out there a little bit. So that's what I did for maybe like 3 or 4 years. But again, that's not something I wanted to do. I was just doing it, and I was just doing enough just to, be able to, pay my bills and things like that, cover my expenses. But I was
Yeah, I
still
was
living
going to
with my.
ask you, how did that work out for you? How did that, was it a pretty successful business?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it worked out. Successful. I mean, I didn't scale the business to a large amount. Like
Oh, okay.
I had a couple well, I had a fitness center. I had a couple medical outpatient offices. I had an apartment complex. When people move out, I go in and clean it up like that. But I wasn't really putting myself out there. I did the work initially just to make a certain amount of money, um, till I got comfortable and be able to pay my expenses and everything like that. So I didn't try to scale it to the point where I can live off of it for the rest of my life. Um, but I was still living at a mom and dad's house at the time, and I was getting older, and still like, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? So I feel like even though it's my own business, it's not really what I wanted to do, and so I didn't want to do it anymore. So I started driving trucks for brother-in-law, Vaughn, Angie's ex-husband
Yeah.
or late ex-husband. And I was like, okay, well, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna move to in Philly somewhere, maybe in some suburb or something like that. And then I started doing that. I met some over-the-road truck drivers who own their own business. Yeah, we make X, Y, and Z a month. I said, well, let me try that. So that's when I started getting into trucking and did my own trucking business. So if I had not had the felony charge, I would have applied for a company and just went straight into corporate or something like that. One of
Corporate.
those
Mm-hmm.
jobs. So, um, yeah, that I mean, so when we talk about traumas and how they can affect you and things like that, I think of disability. A lot of people, when you say disability, a lot of people think some physical limitation, like they're in a wheelchair or something, or they can't really speak or something along those
Right.
lines. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest disability is mental, like limiting you never even tried something, but you don't believe you can do it. And,
There you go.
you just, the way your mindset is, it stops you from doing a lot. And to me, that's the biggest disability. And so I would just encourage anybody to, so how does everybody, I think everybody gains their, like in the military, a lot of like PSTD or how, yeah,
PTSD.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
PTSD, and they have the trauma and stuff like that. That's real. And how we gain our mindset is from our experiences. And so, like, if you touch a stove and it's hot, you're not going to touch it again. So, whatever experiences you have in life, they kind of teach you, okay, well, I didn't like this. So every decision moving forward is going to be based around your experiences. And so again, PTSD in the military, all the crazy stuff that everybody goes through in there, that kind of shapes the way they view the world and how they react and move. And so because experiences shape the way you think and make decisions, you have to just, I think you just have to you just have to experience new experiences and things you want to do so that can reshape your mind into, moving in a different direction. And so that's what I would say. Like, if you're having trouble thinking fit in here or you don't belong here, just try to create experiences in that area in order to, so you can reshape the way your mind works. Like, well, I don't think I belong here. But when I went there, them people welcomed me. They was helping me out and things like that. So I do belong here. So now you start making different decisions. So that's like kind of the trauma you can have with, whatever you get yourself into.
Right. And then life too. We want young people to understand like nobody came into this world and was told you're going to live a perfect life. You're not
Yeah.
going to have any experiences. I look at all of our experiences, good or bad, like life lessons. That's what they
Yeah,
are.
absolutely.
Life lessons. Like you said about touching the stove. Once you touch it, you find out it's hot. You don't go that direction again. Unless you're
Yeah.
one of them hard-headed people, that can't get right, that just, continue to keep touching the hot stove. Like one day you're going to understand. And when you get that third degree burn, like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't think I want to touch this no more.
Yeah.
But life is all about lessons and chances and choices. Okay,
Yep.
you had a choice to change your mindset, and I kind of look at your experience as a good uh, a learning, a real good lesson. Like now, you could have just learned that lesson or went through that experience
Uh-huh.
and didn't learn anything from it. Totally gave up on yourself. Totally just said, okay, well, you know what? You know, you could have got further into the drug selling. I mean, you could have did anything,
Yeah.
but you chose your mindset. You had that little fear at one time point in time. You shrunk yourself, but this is all what I'm talking about: changing your mindset. Anybody, parents are could have kept talking to you, family, sisters, and brothers could have kept talking to you. But if you don't have the mindset for change,
Yeah.
If you don't have the mindset for choice, then nobody, it doesn't matter what anybody says. And I really commend you for just saying, you know what? Okay, I want to start my own business. And that's good
Yeah.
for a lot of people who are out here. Of course, we know that people of color are the highest people that are incarcerated, right? Some who
Yeah.
went through similar experiences like you, and then they don't have that courage, that motivation to do that. So I love what we're saying when we say, like, okay, if you would have been in corporate if you went this way and
Yeah.
decided to get you would have been in corporate. But instead, you took that opportunity and you said, you know what? I'm going to try my own cleaning business. Then you went to your own trucking business. So it is possible. You just have to
Yeah.
find out what you're good at. I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't know what to do. That's what we talk about, having a purpose driven life. What is your purpose? Some people don't know, especially at not 20 years and
Oh
20.
yeah.
You didn't know what you wanted to do. You know, you didn't know, but you made that choice. What gives you what beside what gave you, besides self, would you say it was just all you? What gave you that motivation and that empowerment to want better? Upbringing, what was it? Spiritual?
I would think it's I think I would contribute it to environment because it's not. I don't think it's necessarily me. I mean, I do have a part individually, but at the same time, you can't choose who you're born to. You can't choose, your the environment you grow up in and things like that. For example, growing up, there was a kid. His grandfather was a doctor. His dad was a doctor, and now he's a doctor. I mean, is that really him, or is that just where he was born into? And then you just kind of follow that lifestyle and those steps. And so I just think that I was lucky enough to be born to my parents who lived in a certain area where almost zero crime. And I know I did this in the area, but like there's no crime in it where you already know where we live. There's absolutely pretty much no crime right there around that
Yeah.
area. And so it's just like, I grew up in decent school systems and everything like that. So I guess, just reverted back to that. I mean, that's who I kind of was.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was it was a bad experience. It was
Yeah,
a bad mistake, which we
yeah,
all make mistakes. Some people are just fortunate enough to be born into money where they could cover up those mistakes. Okay, we didn't
yeah,
have those type of parents, that had money that just could just make everything go away. So you make mistakes. But the thing about mistakes, the good thing that I would say about mistakes is that you can learn from them. We
mm,
should never continue to beat ourselves up over it. Now, you and I have um, two totally, we share the same father.
yeah,
We share the same father and we have different mothers. But one thing that I will say about us too, and speaking from getting it from our dad, is, we did an interview, as you saw, as you all have seen, but our father was always a hustler, period. He always wanted to, whatever he did, he wanted to be the best at it. So
yeah,
I would say, like you said, talking about environment, like you said, you grew up in a pretty good environment. You had parents that were working parents, knew the
yeah,
value of how to make money. So I think we can contribute a little bit of that to say, we know who we want to, we don't know who we want to be, but we know that we want better for
yeah,
ourselves because that's how
yeah,
we was raised, to always hear, you know
yeah, yeah,
what better for yourself, like, we're going to do it how we how we have to.
yeah,
So I would contribute it to that. That's, for people who don't have that sort of upbringing. Again, I said we live totally different lives. I lived with my mother,
yeah,
and I will say a lot of things I wasn't taught. I wasn't taught a lot of things. So for me, I will say the way that I had to learn was just from scratch. My mother, she was disabled, so she didn't really work. She was a nurse when I was younger, but
Okay.
I watched my grandparents work hard. I just knew it was always, then you had daddy, when you see
Yeah.
him, he was singing, he was a manager, he was a business owner, and I looked up to my parents. I always knew I wanted to, watching my mom in the medical field, I knew I wanted to help people. Watching my dad, I just knew I had some talent somewhere. But it's about your environment somewhat, but it's also when I watch people who don't have literally a parent at all. What do we say to
Hmm.
them people, And then I watch some of them who grow up and maybe some men are misguided. The first thing they say is, I didn't have nobody to teach me that. So what do we say to these people who say that they didn't have the kind of upbringing maybe we had or the role models that we had? Because I look at that as like a handicap, like you said,
Yeah.
disability. I look at that
Yeah.
as a handicap. Just because you didn't have a parent or someone to look up to, what would you say to them? I know what I would say, but
Yeah. I mean, I would just say that yes, coming from a two-parent household, and the majority of the neighborhood I grew up in, it was like two-parent household. So like, every friend I had pretty much had two parents their whole life, and their parents are still together to this day. And if it was, I have a friend who, grew up in a one-parent household, but that's only because his dad passed away. And
right.
so, yes, your parents I don't people shouldn't think of that as a handicap. I didn't have parents, I didn't have anybody, X, Y, and Z. But the reality is, yes, you're in the house with your parents, but you're more in the world. Like kids are in school 8, 10 hours. So you're more with outside, you're more with outside influences more than you are with your parents. Your parent, what do you wake up, you go to school, you're at school all day, you come home, one of
That's,
the parents still might be working, so you just eat dinner and just run outside and you're playing with your neighbors and stuff like that. So yes, your parents are there and they serve as a guidance, but for the most part, you're getting your influence from the outside world more than the
mhm.
inside world. So yeah, I would just say don't let just because you don't have parents or a guardianship or your parent, whoever your guardians are, mentoring you and things like that, it doesn't mean that you can't become something. You just got to focus. I would say focus more on the outside influences because that's who, the television, the internet. These days, the television, the internet, the school friends, all that is going to be a more influence than your parents are.
That is so again.
Yeah,
Again, you're hitting it right on the nose because again, you grew up in a two-parent household. I grew up in a single-parent household. But
yeah,
the streets, now I grew up in
yeah,
I grew up in West Philly. Okay. I grew up in West Philly and it was either crime, drugs, I was on the street corner, y'all. I was on the street corner. Okay.
yeah,
I was the kid out there, ran away from home at one time because my mother was just, mothering. And it
yeah,
was like, oh gosh, this is, I want to be a little bit more freer. So, again, making mistakes out there on the corners, selling drugs, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? But it has to be something with, again, I could have lived a whole total different life, but I just knew that this is not what I want to do. This is not it. Being in the
yeah,
project, standing on the corner, selling drugs, I always knew that I wanted more. So that's what I mean. Even though we share the same father, we grew up in two total different. We're both successful people right now. And for
yeah,
me, it was a little bit harder because I had to go through a little bit of the hard road because I didn't have too much,
yeah,
but I looked at it like, look, um, this is what I don't want. And I don't want to grow. I don't want to grow up and be and raise children in poverty level.
yes,
I want my children to have reason why I joined the military. at
Hmm.
at an older age, at 30, I just never gave up on myself. So that's what I would say to young people: is never give up on yourself, regardless of your environment. Don't let your environment, good or well, if it's good, of course you want to take that, but
Yeah.
not so successful or good environment. It's all about choice. What do you see yourself? You saw yourself in a different light, so therefore you ain't got it. You could have you had doubts about certain things, but you opened other windows, you opened other doors, you opened other mindsets for yourself, and that's what we want to tell our young people: to open up different avenues in your mind, because it all starts, well, we can say environment, but if your environment is you growing up in the hood, you know or you growing up in a place where, like, you've been,
Yeah.
you have to, it's all about choice. It's all about choice. That's one thing I would say. um
Yeah, and I would say nobody's better than the other because people who grow up in rich neighborhoods, they got their drug issues and stuff too, but you just don't think it's like that because the houses are nice and the neighborhood's nice, but some people in there doing all types of stuff and things
it's
like that too. So
all type, they just, some people are able to hide just
yeah,
for a little bit. After a while,
yeah,
it shows. It
yeah,
shows. But yet, like you said, no one person is better than the next. It's all about who you are, and you have, sometimes we have to find out who are we? Who do we want to be?
yeah,
Would you agree with
and
that? Would you say that?
yeah, yeah. Find out who you want to be. Like you said, I'm 41 right now, and I still don't know exactly who I want. I mean, grow up, you have a whole bunch of interests. Obviously, you can't do them all. You don't want to put yourself, well, I like these 10 things. I'm just only going to do this one thing. So it's kind of hard. And I think that's what's wrong with like society. We ask kids at kindergarten, first grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like then how can somebody just pinpoint exactly what they're going to be, even at
What
any age for that matter? You just,
what's the answer they always give? Doctors,
yeah,
police.
Lord.
Yeah,
Yeah, stuff like that.
right,
And even at my age right now, or any age like 20s, 30s, you just got to find something you like and and just go in that direction. I don't
right.
think you should just kind of your whole make your whole personality a character a specific job title anyway. It's just society makes you think you don't have your life together if you're not like I am a electrician, I am a doctor. Like they try to make you say that you're something and just live that type of lifestyle. But no, you are a person who likes multiple things. Just find something that can get you the lifestyle that you want.
And master it.
Yeah,
Master it.
yeah,
I think that today's generation is so lazy minded. They relax mind, lazy mind, however you want. I'm trying to be nice,
yeah,
but just from what I see, they just want to sit and it should come to me.
yeah,
It should fall. Our ancestors worked, and that's kind of the thing that disappoints me too. Our ancestors worked hard to get some of us where we are today. And
yeah,
some of us just don't want to take that hard work, um, and make things happen and think just a little bit more outside the box.
hmm,
And like me and you, which I'm sure you have two beautiful boys, a beautiful wife, and I'm sure that you're bringing your boys up in a different way than what you were raised. Like for my children, I know that I'm bringing them up in a different way that I was raised. Because now, when my children came into, they didn't really, I paved the way,
yeah,
by going into the
hmm,
military. So now they're paid. I would say my children, they do pretty good for themselves. They
yeah,
have a standard of where they want to live, how they want to raise their children. And then when I look at my grandchildren, it's like, yeah, they're spoiled.
yeah,
They're spoiled. Like I refuse. Like I just had two grandchildren that ran away from home because their mother was like, no, you're not going to have that. You're not going to do that, and until you do better. And I even said that all the things that I'm creating, generational wealth, I will not give you anything just as a handout.
Yeah.
They expect some kids when so it's like it has to be a balancement when we're raising children.
Hmm.
Because you don't want to roll. I think Shaquille O'Neal. I had read, or it was an interview. He said that he wasn't giving his children nothing for free. Like they had to earn it, at least have a degree or something under their belt, and I respect that. I respect that wholeheartedly. Um, and like I was saying, I'm sure that you're raising your boys in a different way or in the same way. How are you raising your boys today? Let me ask that question. What do you want
Well,
your sons to know?
well, I just like like I heard that Shaquille O'Neal thing as well before, and I think that um that's extremely important because I think I heard some statistics or something along the lines of after the third generation, like all the generational wealth that was passed down, the houses, the money, whatever, things like it's gone.
Yeah.
So I think it's more important to pass down a certain standard and a certain standard of living, so that whoever, like if Shaq just if Shaquille O'Neal just passed all his business and all his money to his kids and they didn't do anything, like they're just going to spend it up and somebody's going to find a way to get all that money from them, buy this, buy that, and invest in
Mm-hmm.
this and this and that. But for my boys, I'm trying to become the best version of myself or live a life that I would like, live a life or live a life that, my kids, I would be happy that my kids became out just like me. So I'm just going to, I'm trying to create like the environment for them, a certain standard, like wherever you grew up, I think like you either want to maintain that or you want to go higher. So I'm trying to create a lifestyle to where like my kids, okay, well the bottom standard is what how they grew up, but they want to go above that. Um, so yeah, just basically just a mindset of you got to work hard, you got to sacrifice. I'm trying to get in the right networking circle so that they can. That's why this is kind of a little bit off a little bit, but this is kind of why like people with money send their kids to private school, not because the education is necessarily better or anything like that, but like who are the other kids and their parents, like business owners, entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, and stuff like that. So like your kids are growing up with other kids who have a different mindset and a different network. So you just try to give your kids the mindset and a certain standard to live by, so that when you're gone, that they can you want them to live better than you're living. So,
Right. And
yeah.
what would you say to your boys about mistakes?
It's okay. I mean, it's okay to make mistakes, obviously, because I believe everybody, I don't care who you are, from the president to the governor, whoever, everybody's always done something that was, yeah, illegal in
Mm-hmm.
some form. Some people get caught, some people don't, or some people do get caught and they have a way to work themselves out of it. I would just say, you know, it's okay to make mistakes because you're going to make them anyway, but I'm going to try to keep them away from the harsh mistakes that can, kind of ruin your life, as far as like the people who do get caught and go to a jail for 10, 15, 20, or life or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to mistakes. Let's clarify mistakes in which way, like anything in life or just,
Anything in life. Let's stay on uh let's stay on to it could be any mistake, but your mistake was, selling drugs.
yeah.
You know, what would you say to somebody, uh to a person who's going through that same situation, or any mistake?
Yeah, I mean, if it's something like that I did, and when you have a record or something like that, it's not the end of the world. It possibly get expunged, and if not, you're just going to. At the end of the day, nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you a job. They don't have to hire you for anything. So, like, if if you're in a situation where you can't get a job because of your record for whatever reason, and you have a record that can't be expunged, I mean, you're just going to have to, you know, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, network, self-develop, and then start a business. Again, I started a cleaning business. How much does that really take? Probably like $200 to register the business name. and go to Walmart or whatever store and buy a few cleaning supplies and get little jobs here and there. Next thing you know, you get word of mouth referrals and you're growing from there. So, I mean, that might not be what you want to do, but at least it's something that gets you started and confident and doing something until you find something else. And that's kind of how I looked at it. So like there's always businesses you can start with little to no money and earn money for yourself. So I would say it's not the end of the world. We live in America. There's opportunity everywhere. This having a record is not a death sentence. You can make your way out of it. Just gonna have to be independent, and you
Right.
can't rely on somebody to give you a job and give you a pay every week. But it can be done.
It can be
Some
done.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do in the trucking industry. There's a lot of people who have records and go into trucking. It's not the ideal lifestyle, but it pays really well. But sometimes a lot of people don't want to do it. They're like, I can't find a job, or the job I have doesn't pay enough. The thing is, like you were talking about, sometimes people just don't want to do what has to be done. They don't want to. They don't want to sacrifice. I mean,
Yes.
nobody's telling you to be a truck driver or anything that you don't want to do for 20, 30 years. Just get in somewhere, get your foot in the door, get experience, and then, just move on from that while you try to transition into the next thing that you really want to
And that's great. That's great. That's a great word right there, Lance. It's all about determination,
do.
not
Yeah.
giving up, changing your mindset, and that is exactly what we talk about here on B3u. And my brother, I appreciate you coming on and being transparent and sharing your story and showing people, young people especially, that it's not too late. Don't give up. Again, society can teach you that it's over, but you'll never know until you try. If you don't try and you just put it out in the atmosphere that it's not going to happen, you're already defeating, you're already shrinking yourself
Yeah.
to match what statistics say or what somebody told you. um, in the military, we call them barracks lawyers. You
Yeah.
have to stop listening to the barracks lawyers. You have to research for yourself. Do the work. Do the
Yes.
work. You have to do the work. And I will say for me, most of my things has been very spiritual. I lean on God. Was raised in the church. I am a believer, and I do know for a fact that the Bible is correct when they say faith without works is dead. You can't
Yeah.
just wish for it and then don't put no work behind it. So
Yeah.
I commend you, and you're my brother, and I love you. I'm proud of everything that you have done and are doing, and I can't wait to see what's next. I want to say one more thing because you have a niece that loves you. You're like on this high pedestal to her because you taught yourself Japanese. Am I correct?
Yes.
You taught yourself Japanese, and she was doing that same thing. So a man, you're a man who has a determined determination, like a spirit, a willing spirit,
Hmm.
and that's what I love most about our family, the Williams family. We are some determined jokers. We
Yeah.
are determined. And that's what, whether you have it in your family or you don't have it in your family, determination is key.
Yeah.
Determination is key. So
And I want
whatever,
to say,
go ahead.
and I want to say one last thing. Cause you said the barracks lawyers don't listen to people, do the research yourself. I would say even don't even I mean don't even get discouraged from what you find on Google and all these forums and everything like that because
Yes.
everything that I've read when I had a record that wasn't expunged, oh, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. So everything that I read, it almost makes you still want to give up because everything is saying like you can't do it, but everything it said I couldn't do, I've done it. Or no truck company is going to hire you. I had my own trucking company. I worked for trucking companies, probably like three or four of them. So like if I just looked on Google and saw like, oh no, you're done, then that was it. Now there's always somebody out there that'll give you a chance. You just gotta, like you said, have the determination and willingness to continue to look for the opportunities.
And that's so true. Well, thank you, uh, Lance Williams, my brother, my baby brother. I
Yeah.
thank you for coming on and sharing your transparency. I look forward to you coming back and sharing maybe something else that could help someone else on
Yeah.
whatever is next. And I thank my viewers for coming and sharing this time with Mr. Lance Williams and your host, Bree Charles. We'll see you guys.
Thanks for having me.